streaming up to Facebook. Let's see how long this takes to catch up. And I think it's loading. Guys, if you can see this, we're getting started a little bit late today. Technical issues again, still Facebook, partially. Still working on getting some of this stuff worked out. If you are just tuning in, just give us a minute to get started. Meanwhile, like and share the video so that everyone can see this. And share it to all of the libertarian groups. We have a very special guest, Shawn Jones, who's running for U.S. Congress in the Dallas area, and he's also a jury nullification activist. So, I've worked with him in the past. He's really awesome. He knows what he's talking about, and he's I would say one of the real libertarians.
Awesome.
If you're into that fight, say hey, Shawn, you're on.
What's going on, guys and ladies?
So cool. All right. So I think we're live. Facebook's still on a lag, so they're catching up. But if you have questions or comments, go ahead and put those in. And hopefully I didn't just crash the browser trying to resize it. Cool. So Shawn, good to have you back on. We did this a long time ago when this was a lot more amateur, which I know was like saying what, because like everything still doesn't work. How you been?
I'm doing good. Can't complain.
So you've been out there doing a lot of jury nullification activism. I know I see you out all the time. You're handing out your flyers. It looks like you've got a lot of people kind of in a group with you that are helping you hand these out. Are you doing this all in one city? Do you have other people like around the country that are helping you out with this?
Well, FIJA is definitely FIJA, FIJA.org, Fully Informed Jury Association. They are a national organization, and we do have people in numerous cities throughout the country that are all doing similar jury outreach projects. I primarily work, exclusively work here in Dallas and Collin County, mostly because you have to be there at 8 in the morning. So, you kind of got to go where you can drive.
Right. So what do you usually do? You have these, I know you have kind of like these flyers that you hand out that have some information in it. I guess what else do you do? I mean, do you talk to people? How receptive are they to the information that you're giving them? What do you tell them? Do you try and like prepare them for this? What kind of goes on there?
Well, we had some signs made up. Like if you go on the page, you'll see I'm usually holding a green vinyl sign, and it just says jury information. This partially it's to make it look a little more official when people are walking into the courthouse, and most people have somewhat of a look of dread on their face as they carry their little yellow card to the courthouse, because they've all got work and other things to do, and quite honestly, the average citizen just does not want to do jury duty. So they come up, usually, and they're like, "Oh, you have jury information." Just passing out flyers on your right here. And you keep it pretty simple. Our job really to engage in in-depth conversation with people while they're there. It's just to give them information for them to think about, and things for them as they're waiting to figure out whether they're going to get selected, and as they kind of move through that process. It's a little three-page or trifold mostly with the concept of nullifying victimless crimes and self-ownership. Those are really the fundamental points of jury nullification, or the message that we're trying to get people to think of. If there was no victim, is this really a crime that we should be spending everybody's time, money, and effort on? And if in fact victimless crimes, if in fact we own our body and our agency, and there was no, person injured, whatever it was that I was doing was claimed to be illegal, is this something that we should be wasting full time, money, and effort on?
Right.
So it's really for us, it's just planting seeds.
Okay.
Every now and then you're a juror. You get some funny responses. No, I'm good. Oh, I know mine. Um,
He's guilty.
most
I already
people
know.
are, yeah, and I see where people think that. And before I ran across Fiji, I probably would have, to a certain extent, like I would have had more faith that in what was being non. Whenever I went into courthouse, more I learned over the years, the more I realized, quite honestly, how manipulated the jurors are a lot of times, and they are led to believe that they can't quit somebody, or that they're nothing for nothing other than the black and white innocent of that crime. And so, so and unfortunately, you deals between just prosecutors and defense attorneys that take away from the integrity of process. And so sometimes the jurors are led to have, it's not because of the tangibles of case in front of them, but because of that triangle of authority between these three groups, jurors are being led in a certain direction because of a previous arrangement. And you let this guy off with probation, all get these kind of scenarios.
Right. So, and this is interesting because because of that, they say 90% of criminal cases never even go to trial because everyone takes a plea bargain, and you end with innocent people take a plea bargain just because odds are so fucked to begin with. That's really interesting that that whole system not only does it take people's rights away to get into a trial, but then after that it's just with jury, right? Jury trial. So something I want to ask you though is because when I first kind of started taking the red pill, especially as it comes to juries, my realization was that everybody's being scared to think that they have to go to jury once they get that letter. But the reality is you don't. There's no. It's really the state is already basically they're using these threats. They say in it's very weird wording at the states that I've been in where I get these notices, and I got a federal one too. And they use this very weird wording that makes it sound like you could be fined $10,000 if you don't go. But you read closely, it's really like, oh well, if you don't show up, we'll kind of sort of maybe try to kind of figure out we can trick you into paying $10,000, but we can actually just fine you $10,000 for it. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, at the same time, I don't want to talk people out of not going to jury duty just because you don't have to. I just want to use that as an example to show how manipulated the state is. Because realistically, we do need more people to go to jury duty, especially more informed people who are going to say, yeah, fuck this. Because realistically, you have, tell me what you think about this. You've got 90% of these cases, people are taking the plea bargain because they, basically, they're threatened that this is going to go to trial. We already know the reason we're against you is we can prove you actually are in possession of the marijuana. There's no way you can doubt it. Or even in our case, they're like the jury's just not gonna like you because we're gonna tell them you're an evil person because you hang out with gangs. Whatever stuff that's really threatening to someone, that they're gonna say, well, shit, I'm really kind of fucked. I don't want to take that risk. Well, yeah, as much as this guy used to, shoplift, but not a murderer. Or yeah, he was in possession of marijuana, but we're gonna convict him. And if that starts to happen more and more often, less people are gonna be afraid of the possible consequences from the plea bargain. They're gonna say, no, let's take this to trial because I actually believe I am innocent. Do you think there's any truth to that, or do you think that's not going to change much?
Well, I think that one of the reasons alcohol prohibition was because they stopped being able to get convictions. And so jury nullification can and does work. The idea for the legal system, for lack of a better word, is everybody, LR's resource of revenue. And jury trial is expensive for the city, the state, the county, whatever it is. So obviously they don't want to go to a jury trial because it will cost them more money. It also removes their power somewhat. They can't manipulate the situation as easy once you bring those individuals in, especially if you only even hang the jury. So they've got a lot of different incentives to go ahead and force you into a straight bench trial. Also, typically bargains involve probation. One of their favorite recurring payment systems. We're going to let you stay out, but we're just going to let you tithe every month. It's like paying for your rehab in pass.
Well, what's interesting about that too is it's almost like you're I don't know, you're playing a game like Monopoly, and getting probation is like them put hotels on everything. It's like if you get a traffic ticket or you do something really minor that normally might cost you a few $100s, well now it's a probation violation, so it's a few $1,000s, and basically they hook you in with this, and it's like, oh, we got you on contract now. Now we can upcharge you all this other crap.
Mm-hmm. The government mandated classes, maybe some behavior modification classes for a small fee. Maybe a device added to your vehicle, nominal fee. May have to take a random drug test every now and then, nominal fee. I mean, it adds up, and then if you forget to dot an I across a T, maybe we'll extend it for another 6 months or a year, and we'll turn around and even act like doing you a favor, but not throwing you in jail for it.
Right. Yeah, the favor.
Yeah.
And that's like so. That's so the government way of doing things. Like, oh yeah, we're always doing favors. Like we do so many favors. You should be on to be in our presence. And like, so let's talk about your election. You're running for U.S. Congress, and you are tell me a campaign.
We are a grassroots campaign. I am really going to be targeting non-voters and the truly disenfranchised that don't have a lot of party affiliation. There's a certain group that is dyed red and blue. It is what it is, and nothing I can say is ever going to then move the pen over to the third column. There's certain group that it's not really worth my time trying to go against. So I'm looking for that really 45 and under group that they may not even know what the problem is, but they know that nothing is getting better, and that the people in the house are getting richer and richer. So my I've got a few focal points. Primarily downsizing the scope of the federal government at every step and turn that I possibly can, and in doing so, reducing tax burden. I'm going to make taxes go away, but if I can advocate for cutting enough off, at least theoretically in the trickle down system, we're not spending half as much money every year as we are now, the tax liability should go down. So I'm focused on corporate lobbyists and collusion and corruption going on there. I'd like to see some laws, maybe stating that really just kicking lobbyists the hell out of DC. That's a big one for me. Focusing on Congress actually working. We spend the majority of their time trying to raise money for the two parties right now. So I would like to, my goal is to pull back the curtain on some really good stuff in many regards. One, Congress cannot do, you have no magic wand, no magic pen, you can't wield a hammer and make things happen, but you can pull back the curtain so that other not districts see how actually gross what's happening is, how dishonest and how disingenuous things actually are. And into that, hopefully, if that change, in the following election and get people asking more of those tough questions, those loose threads that people don't really like pulling on. Hopefully, I give them enough information to where they really feel like it's worth looking at that.
Right. Well, now you said also in your campaign, you're running a campaign. What's that about?
Also, if you don't know, for those listening, the NAP, the non-aggression front, I'm running under the idea that all interactions should be country. We all have the right to live our life free of theft, violence, and coercion. Right now, our tax system is just stealing from us. It is taking money, it is not allocating it for what it says it's going to, and in this case, it's taking money without intent. So I look at what Congress sends and what they get paid, and I've decided that I am going to forfeit my check, and I'm also going to waive all the allotted to run office in your home city in Indy, which is $1 million a year, a salary $174, and then another $610 a day per diem for a day that I'm in Indy. Before the longest I've ever actually give you money, the average congressperson probably uses about $1.3 million. I am on 100% volunteer funded. I am banking on the fact that I'm going to be loud and honest enough where people outside my district are going to give me money. I believe the Libertarian Party and all the people inside the Libertarian Party who get taxation stuff. If they believe that, sincerely truly, they believe like I do, that voluntarism is the only truly peaceful way for us to live in this society together, they are going to put their money where their mouth, and then when a monthly contribution, $5 a month, $10 a month, I would keep it very low on per as well. I don't want to give all people me large money. I don't really, if it's more than $100, I don't know who it came from. It's $100, but I want this to be in a job. If I sell my soul, then they give back your contribution to, and that would be your way with consent to allow me to represent you.
And that's really interesting because no one really done for. I think Ron Paul might have been the closest, and I think he forfeit half of his salary or something like that. But it's so really what's that?
I think it's pretty gay. 4,000.
Right, and that's that's kind of it's a little bit higher than the salary of the United States, but it's not what the dish take on just straight out paychecks. So this whole plan is really interesting, and we always talk about who's going to run government. And we have this question. Well, is the government providing something that you want, and are you willing to pay that? Would you be willing to pay for that? Because the answer is no. You would be willing to pay that. And where are you willing to take taxes to pay for it? Because that's basically then taking from you to pay for it. You're a little bit less. You're being up people who don't want to pay for it. But it's kind of going to that question. Well, do you want somebody in Congress to represent you? And if the answer is yes, would you be willing to pay for somebody to go to Congress to represent you? And that's kind of what you're asking. Now, you're not necessarily taking a bribe like some of these other guys do, but you're actually saying, if we're going to, this is something that you want, pay for it. And I'm wondering, what's going to be the future of this? Is this going to kind of maybe condition people that government costs money to run, and if I want to run a certain way, I need to be one to give them money voluntarily, and say, this is for this program, this is to build this new highway you want to build. Because ultimately, it's like that's how you raise money for things, right? They would sell bonds, and we projects sell some bonds. We don't steal money from people to build this. I mean, of course, they still were at some degree, but so it's almost like you're kind of mid-transitioning into a whole new era of thinking about, this whole, I guess, more voluntary system of funding government employees.
Absolutely, and I'm rounding up and giving benefit of the doubt. We call it a 15% approval in Congress. You have roughly a 9% reach. And you can, and I'm back over the last 25, 30 years, and these numbers stayed very consistent, with the exception of shortly after when Powers fell, there was an enormous spike in approval to go out and on. Other than that, the numbers are giving you very true for decades. In what world do the rest of us as daily employees, would we still be employed if our employer thought we were only doing a good job 15% of the time? We'd be. There's no doubt about it, we'd be gone. Why is this not happening in Congress? I've gone into research. There's never been a Congress that's been impeached. How is that possible? 15% approval for so long, nobody's ever lost their job. How is that happening?
Right. So here's the thing. You got government is all playing together on all different levels. You got the congressmen write the laws that allow the police to steal from you. Of course, who allow they view your kangaroo court and allow you, you're getting for trial. They allow the executive branch to walk off with your money. They're all playing together. So it's kind of like who does the impeachment? The attorney. Who's it going to be? And when it comes down to if you want to impeach the guy, it's like, do you know how to do it? Because they're going to put you through like so much red tape that because they control the system, it's going to be possible for you to do. I think in order to what was it? In order to so let's say a police officer commits a crime, and you want to impeach him, you want criminal action brought against him, and the district attorney is refusing to do it, right? You can do it on your own. You can actually stop that happening. You need to find a lawyer who's willing to prosecute it, and then you need to get something like 50 million signatures to make it happen. Like it's the things are like set up so that you can't do these things. You need to sit and wait for government to basically investigate themselves and find out there's wrongdoing. The system that you're talking about, where if you're my representative and I'm paying you, and you've still got bills, you still need money to be there, and you're doing a really shitty job. I say, I'm not representing my vote. I'm gonna stop paying you. And then eventually because that's ultimately what when you compare like a regular employee to a representative in Congress, that's the main difference. The main difference is that if the employee is doing bad, he's costing money, and the entire purpose of that system of the job is to make money. And if he's costing money and he's not providing value, they're going to say, sorry, you need to go, and they have the authority to do that. Here, we are the people who are continuously signing that paycheck in taxes, and we have absolutely, because they just take it from us. We have absolutely no control to be able to say, I'm not signing this year. You can't.
Well, you can't, but then you're going to be terrorized.
Exactly. So, so that's a really interesting comparison, and if it's a crazy idea because you're challenging the system and how the system works. But if you're able to pull this off and make it happen, then it's only a matter of time before people in other constituencies are going to say, why are you do what he's doing? So that we fire you when we don't keep this. But at the same time, we have to consider that they have 15% approval, they all have a 9% election rate. So what does that say?
It's that one says a number of things. It's a number of things. So some of that 9% re-election rate is the responsibility of the people. I mean, a great deal of it is. It's still, if you're unhappy, it's your job, it's your responsibility, it's your own happiness to do something up. I think what's happened is people become two things. People are extremely bogged down with the daily grind, paying their bills, paying their taxes, paying their mortgage, keeping their job, squeaking out a little bit of time for themselves, friends on the weekend. And then there's another, they're just completely apathetic because they have watched a 90% re-election rate and have just accepted it in the worst possible defeat. Yeah, I think we saw it against 16, where I believe it was 46% of voting Americans didn't participate in the election. 46% had so little faith in the process or so little opinion of anybody that was involved that they just did nothing. I mean, but they all have to pay for this shit show that's still happening. Which I think adds, just it all snowballed, to the point where it's left a very defeated populace for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this concept again is not just for my district. This concept is, for the dudes at Workfest, for the guys in Anarchapulco, for the guys up in the Pacific Northwest, for everybody who is just sick of status quo, sick of millionaires becoming bigger millionaires, they're feeding billionaires. I'm hoping that I'm the guy that they're going to have enough faith in for 2 years. That's it. That's really all I'm asking. 2 years for me to show you how corrupt it is and where we should really be attacking and targeting, and hopefully give other, if this model can work, have other people replicate it. And the more people opt to support the representative they actually believe in, the harder and harder it's going to be for that 90% to retain their control. And it's not going to reinvent the wheel, but it is going to force some very uncomfortable conversations with politicians. And it's going to have to make them answer some real questions like, what am I getting for my money? You said you were going to do this, but you voted this way, which, again, becomes another one of America's emotionally charged problems. They focus way too much on what people say and not enough on how they vote. It's great to say I love children and I love this and nobody should be left behind and, all the emotional, charge that goes into things. And people will retweet it and share it and like it and all that, but they never once went and found out how somebody actually voted.
Right. Or if they do, it's based on the name of the bill. So like No Child Left Behind.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh no, that was great. They did it for the kids, and there's the Clean Air Act and the Patriot Act.
They're all emotionally charged. And then if you don't, so No Child Left Behind, you didn't vote for that? Oh, so you hate children.
Yeah.
Clearly, and it has no, and they never know all the pork that's laying underneath that bill. Like, oh, by the way, when we left No Child Behind, we also bombed 3 countries. Or we gave farming subsidies to Monsanto Bear. There's all these other things that are added to those, but the emotional title is No Child Left Behind. And
right.
That's all people hear. And again, we are being manipulated by the media. There is no doubt about it. More and more has come out in the last several years. That being said, it's still everybody's responsibility to go and do a little bit of research and to try to find out when they say it's No Child Left Behind, what else is coming with that child?
Right.
When we got the Patriot Act, I didn't know that was going to lead to a wall, 20 years later.
Right.
And so we have to be mindful as humans and citizens of this country. We need to do our own thinking. We need to turn off Fox. We need to turn off CNN. We need to read multiple articles. And, again, this requires work.
This is like all really interesting because we have this this concept of I don't want to deal with that stuff. I want to let someone else deal with that problem. Or we have let the teachers figure out the schools, let the bureaucrats figure out let everybody figure out something else. But it's like if we were if we were living somewhere, let's say we lived on the plains in Africa, right? And there's nobody taking care of us. We have to worry that the lions are gonna come and eat us in the middle of the night, right? And for some reason, we feel so comfortable with these politicians who are really just these lions they're not gonna eat us. They're just gonna steal everything we have and force us to work for them and get free labor out of us and all this other stuff. And it's we're so just manipulated into oh, that's not even a threat. It would be like if we were on the plains in Africa saying, oh, that lion there, he's not going to do anything. And it's just almost insane. It's like these people are doing so much that affects everything, and so many people are willing to just not pay attention because they're like, oh, that's got nothing to do with me. But it's like it does. And even the agorists who are just like, if I pretend government's not there, they can't touch me, they can't do anything. It's like eventually they're going to want your land and they're going to kick you off and take it, and there's nothing you can do because you were being pacifist about the whole thing the whole time, and they just grew and grew and grew, and now now it's your turn to be kicked off your land. It's
Yes.
it's
And I've had a similar discussion. I was belong to a group of voluntarist anarchists, and I brought up the national debt, which triggered some people, and their claims that the debt is fake, which I 100% agree with. But as I reminded them, while that debt may be fake, the men with guns and the cages that they will lock me in for the imaginary debt are all, in fact, very real. So you still
Right.
got to deal with it, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, whether the debt is fake, whether the law is bogus. These are all things we still have to deal with because the consequences are still very real. And by sticking our head in the sand, passing it down to the next guy, the next generation, or as one of my friends brought up the other day, which is now one of my new favorite things. Sorry, no, backtrack for a second. I realized a couple of years ago that paying taxes makes people extraordinarily lazy. Meaning that a lot of people, when it comes to, instead of going and standing in front of the courthouse, instead of going to work at the soup kitchen, instead of going to work at the food bank, instead of doing all sorts of the outreach and voluntarism we could do, you say that's what I paid my taxes for. That's why we pay our taxes. A friend of mine pointed out to me the other week, this is the equivalent basically of saying let the maid do it. Paying taxes as the answer to social problems is literally like the laziest thing you can do. Instead of getting out and actually participating in your community, instead of actually getting out and doing things and actually being one of the ones to help somebody in need, you're saying, I'm just going to let you take part of my check and you can go deal with it. I don't have the time, the bandwidth, the energy, or I really just don't care enough about it to actually do anything. So I'm going to pay you to do it. Well, if that's the case, and that's what you choose to do, that's fine. But you can't turn around to the rest of us that want to do the work and want to do the heavy lifting and tell me I have to pay into a system that's not accurately and adequately functioning just because you're too lazy to do your job or too lazy to participate in it.
Right, and that's
Sorry.
really interesting too because you
Little
have.
side.
Well, no, I really like that because there's a couple things you're triggering in my mind here. So first of all, you have the poor who are paying the taxes, who are overpaying for their maids, and so of course they're pissed off about that because of the inefficiency of government. But there was someone who used the exact same analogy for I think it was for gun control, and they said for you to tell us, you don't need to carry a gun, the police carry a gun for you. That's the equivalent of saying let the maids do it. But for us, we don't have police, especially we don't have police on our side. We don't have police in our neighborhood. I mean, there are plenty of people who live in neighborhoods. I know some of these people that live in neighborhoods where if you call the police, they don't call the police because if the police come, everyone's getting arrested. It doesn't work out good for anyone. And so to tell those people they need to pay the maids, those maids aren't working for them. What's the point of all that?
No, in many cases, those maids are running up the bill even further. They're making things worse, not better.
Right, and now you have so I'm living in Mexico and taking note of a lot of differences in the way things work, and so here I will see a family of 4 on a little motorcycle, like a scooter, right? Probably on their way to drop one of the kids off at school, and then the wife's going to drop the husband off at work, on a scooter, right? This is illegal in the U.S. Because the U.S. will say, that's not safe, you need to buy a car. But what if you can't afford a car? Which is why people are driving. I mean, they're not like, oh yeah, we just like squeezing our family onto this little scooter. It's because it's what they can afford. And so we're basically saying in America, no, it doesn't matter what you can afford. If you can't afford what we consider to be safe, you can't drive. You can't get where you're going. Take public transportation. Do something else. And it's really that same. It's not telling the maid to do it, but it's that same kind of like, the privileged person telling everyone else how to live their lives. And of course, you have the poor people who are always getting screwed over by, oh, you had a taillight out, now you owe us $200. And it's like, well, I was just waiting for my next paycheck so I could fix the light. I mean, some people are like, the light costs a couple bucks to replace, but some people are like, I don't have the time because I'm working 3 or 4 jobs, and like everyone in my family's like, we gotta take turns with the car and everything. We don't have time to fix it, and some people are like, I don't have the $2 to buy the light bulb until I get my check next week. And those people are getting screwed with a $200 fine, which then of course they can't pay, so then they suspend the registration, and then there's more fines and fees, and shit goes up, and it's crazy. And people who have like a decent job are just like, oh well, they should have just paid their thing. They should have just fixed their life. It's that same thing. This is like the, I don't know if that's the white privilege or like this is like that mentality of why don't you just take care of your problems like everybody else?
You can call it, white privilege gets overused. It's an economic privilege.
There you go.
Similar, the city of Dallas passed here in this last year a cite and release marijuana program. Now, this had been on the books in Texas for years, but only Travis County, which is Austin, actually implemented it. Finally, after enough pushback, they threw the scraps of cite and release. And there were a lot of people that were really excited about it. And while you should be somewhat relieved that you're not going to go to a long-term cage for it, at least at the moment. For the dude who makes $60,000 a year and he gets busted with some weed and gets a $200 ticket, you know what? Maybe he can't get that new pair of shoes, or maybe he has to sacrifice something, a concert ticket. He strokes the $200. Maybe he puts it on his credit card because he doesn't have the cash, but he pays the fine and he moves on. Well, the working mom with 2 jobs that has a gram of weed on her, well, that $200 could be the difference in rent, could be the difference in utilities, food. So then what happens if you can't pay it? You lose your job. Well, now if I lose my job, am I going to lose my place to live? If I lose my place to live, am I going to lose custody of my children and have the state take them? All because of a $200 ticket based on a plan that had no victim.
And to that example, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if somebody says like, well, if she's a mother of 2 children, what's she doing driving around with pot? That could have been her kid's pot that she didn't even know was in there, so she consented to a search, which is how they found it in the first place. And she doesn't want to turn her kids in because that's even worse to her. So she's not gonna say it's her kids. She's just, okay, fine, I'll pay whatever, but exactly to your point, she doesn't have that money. It's going to fuck up the food and the rent and the bills and everything else.
Or maybe her kid was in trouble for truancy at school. It's faded out a little bit here in the last couple of years, but truancy for a while was a big ticket item in the state of Texas. And what cite and release does is it still allows the police to, when they stop you for that tail light, that brake light, or license plate light, or whatever miscellaneous garbage, it still gives them I smell weed. The phantom smell, you can't prove that they didn't smell it. So what happens now? All 5 people in the car are all sitting out on the curb. They're rifling through everybody's stuff. They're running everybody's name. And if they don't find any weed, well, they either can let everybody pile back in the car and move along, or maybe they got somebody who had an unpaid traffic ticket or a truancy or whatever it is. And so the cite and release, while it's good in theory, it still hasn't actually addressed the problem of police abuse and civil rights abuse. Because as soon as they say, I smelt it, your rights are suspended. You're on the curb. You're trapped. And God forbid you run your mouth or say you won't be searched. And depending on where you are, you could have more or less dangerous repercussions. But still, either way, things like cite and release that sound really good, they sound really good to people. But if you can't, you still can't. You can't get blood out of a turnip. And if I don't have $200, I don't have $200. And there was a time in my life where I would have just looked and been like, I'll just spend 2 days in jail because it will be easier for me than coming up with $200.
Something you just said just gave me a flashback when you said, someone's going to run their mouth. I was in my friend's car one time. It was around Christmas, and he just made he made a U-turn from the second to the left lane. Because he was already really close to the intersection. So in order to make the U-turn, it's like he kind of. I mean, you have to drive across the other lane. But anyway, so he got stopped for making a U-turn from the second lane, and this cop was just like an asshole, and so he wrote him a ticket. He went back to his car, and as he was walking back to his car, I just yelled out the window, "Yeah, Merry Christmas!" And man, that pissed him off, and he just came back to the car, and he just started going off. I'm gonna rip you out of your car, and all this shit. And I'm like, and I was a kid, dude. I was like, okay, I'm gonna shut the fuck up. This guy's just crazy. But it's like, exactly to your point. Someone's like, I wasn't the one who made the illegal U-turn, but I really could have fucked it up for my friend just by having said that. And you don't know. And I've got another friend who's. He was stopped in a car, and one of the passengers had weed on him. So when they got everyone out of the car, they took it out of their pocket and left it on the floor. And then they find it, and they're like, "Oh, whose is this?" And nobody wanted to take responsibility for it, so they pin it on the driver. And it's like, what the fuck? Like you can't prove it was the driver's. It wasn't even by the driver's seat, and you're just like, well, we're gonna pin it on someone. If no one's gonna admit it, we're just gonna punish the innocent guy. They don't care.
Well, first, that guy's friends were dicks. I mean, let's also call that. That's completely different personal issue that he has with his friends.
It is.
But yeah, as the driver, you're responsible. That the vehicle is your property, and therefore anything going on inside of it is your responsibility.
Okay, but if you have two passengers and one of them had weed on it brings it in your car. And if you've got two friends in the car and they're not going to admit who it was because maybe they're already on probation and they know they're going to get like 10 years if they admit to it, and they're like, oh, I'll talk to him about it later. He's going to have to like take this for me. He's going to get probation, but I'm going to get 10 years. So you got some shitty friend who's going to do that to you. But you had the rule. You said no pot in my car, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just fucked.
Yes, and again, we keep talking about scenarios where there is no victim, which is I think that's what do all these little anecdotal stories have in common? There was no victim
there was a victim. There was. It was the person who got cited.
Well, yes,
who was getting robbed by the cops.
Yes, what I've heard. There was no injured. If I was any one of those people, my behavior and my actions had zero negative impact on anybody else.
Right.
That's it. That's. I think as a country, as a society, we have slowly been lulled into this legal is moral kind of dynamic, and so few people are really questioning this overabundance of laws that we have on the books now,
right?
And how,
well, you've also got
trying to govern everything,
right? And to a certain end, you have some people who support it because they believe the propaganda. Like there are people who say marijuana is not a victimless crime because You know, that like, oh, someone turned into a pot addict and their family has to suffer and society has to suffer, and they do meth and now they're breaking into people's houses and stealing money for their meth. And you know, they turn it into like, oh, this is a problem of society. Like society's the victim, and people buy into this shit. And it's no, if someone breaks into your house, then yes, there's a victim. Charge them for breaking into charge them for stealing. If they're like, there are people who have jobs, they buy their drugs, they buy hard drugs, coke, meth, crack, whatever. They do them at home and they don't bother anybody. And I'm not saying that like that's something people should be doing. I'm not going to say it's healthy. I'm not going to say it makes you a better person, but it doesn't make you a criminal.
No, that's really not advocating smoking crack. Probably a really bad idea. But it's also not my responsibility or authority to tell you what to do with your body and your life on your own time, assuming you're not harming other people. I don't get a say in that matter. I can have an opinion about it. I can make snide comments about it. I can snark about it. I can do many things, but I don't have the right to put you in a cage. That's, the crime does not fit punishment in that case. And quite honestly, somewhat polarizing figure, John McAfee in the 16 debate, libertarian debate, brought up a very good point that, the drug addiction is the punishment. Being addicted to heroin, that's the punishment. Going to jail isn't the punishment. The being addicted to something on a daily basis is. The compromising your morals and your behaviors and your livelihood for that addiction, that's the punishment. That is the prison. We don't need to make it any worse by locking them in a cage. Not to mention all the black market violence that goes along with all these prohibition style systems. So,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, it comes back to people still need to go back minding their own business. I mean, that's really, my grandmother would have told me this: mind your own business. Don't jump into conversation. Whatever the scenario was.
Well, I'd like to mind my own business, but thanks to government regulations, I'm out of business.
Yes.
It's insane. Anyway. Let's talk about some more fun stuff, because I know you've been you've. I don't know if you want to talk about this new idea that you have yet, but what you told me about the other day. I'll let you say it, because I don't want to spoil it if you're keeping that a secret. The glass jar.
Oh. Okay. Anyway, did I talk about it? I assume you're talking about the candles.
Yes. You want to talk about those?
Yes. Yeah, I do. God, I wish I already had one sitting in front of me, but don't yet. We are going to, in spirit of Ron Paul, a great Texas statesman, and I think a guy that has brought an enormous amount of people to the Liberty movement, polarizing in his own right, but nobody is above reproach and criticism. But Ron Paul, to my knowledge, has probably brought more people in the fold of thinking big L or little L libertarian and freedom oriented more than about anybody else I know. And so to commemorate this as part of my campaign fundraising, we're going to have Ron Paul prayer candles. As I have kind of taken the challenge, I have challenged myself personally to, when I get elected and when I'm in D.C. next year, to actually break his record for saying no to more legislation than needed. And so, to commemorate this, we're looking for some Ron Paul prayer candles for a nominal donation, of course.
Awesome. And yes, and I better be the first one to get one of those. As soon as you got them, let me know, and I'm buying the first one.
He was probably, he was for me, he was the first person to get me to look up the non-aggression principle. And I've learned a lot over the last several years with the Liberty movement. To couple on to a saying that I was taught years ago. Um, not everybody's exactly what they seem, but it's important to focus on the message, not the messenger. And while everybody has some criticisms um, against them, their good deeds should be celebrated. And I think Ron is one of those guys that really should be celebrated. I think it's gitchy and fun. Not expecting Dr. Paul to endorse me. I just think it's a fun thing for liberty lovers everywhere to have a Ron Paul taxation is theft candle, sitting on the mantle. It'll be a fun conversation piece, whether you like him or you didn't like him. You have it sitting in your house, and it's going to start a conversation. And if nothing else, it's fun.
And he is going to be. If you win, you need to light one of those on the floor of Congress while they're doing their proceedings, while they're doing a vote, or that's got to be your thing. Light candle before the vote.
Because it will be a little bit. If I win, it'll be a little bit of a funeral in D.C. There is no doubt about that, because it will truly show that there is a change and a hunger for the change, and it will really put people on notice. So I will definitely be lighting a candle and giggling the whole way.
Nice. So now you have to have these by New Orleans, because Ron Paul's going to be there, and I want to see if I can get one signed by him.
I as well. One of my goals is to get an autographed one, and then towards the end of the campaign, I want to do a raffle and raffle off the one of the autographs, because I'm going to keep one for myself. They will absolutely. They'll be at the taxation is theft group at convention. I can guarantee that.
Awesome.
They're in merch. Just unfortunately, I've been super busy redesigning a card for the campaign and rebranding some media that I'm trying to do for this last 5-month push. I've got the candles already set aside. Just trying to figure out the right layout of. I don't know that you can call a Ron Paul prayer candle tasteful, but the best possible layout for the candle. So the Ron Paul candles will definitely be there for convention, for sure. And they should be up on my website here in the next 2 weeks. Better be, hopefully 2 weeks or less.
Awesome. I can't wait for those. Cool. So is there anything else you've got going on that we haven't talked about? I know you've always got your hands in. Oh, do you want to talk about the Patrick's sign, or should we save that for Patrick?
Oh gosh, I think I want to tease that. I'll tease it, and then hopefully you and Patrick can get together. For you guys that don't know who Patrick Smith is, he ran for not governor inside the Libertarian Party on a NAP compliant platform as well. And so while we were at state convention, we got some of these wonderful taxation is theft yard signs from you, and Patrick has put one in his yard.
A lot of people don't get to know their neighbors too well. It's kind of like we're in our own little bubbles in our neighborhoods, and our friends come from outside of the neighborhood to hang out with us, or we go outside of the neighborhood, but we don't really spend too much time with our neighbors that much anymore. So it's interesting to see, like, you could have like a social justice warrior living to the left and Nazi living right and not even know it.
Yep. Or as I found out close to my neighborhood, people that really hate panhandlers. Whoa. Whoa. There was talk about some economic privilege skew that was happening. I eventually, after getting reported so many times, like a 48-hour period, I got tired of people screaming panhandling is illegal, and always going. They were constantly reposting the non-emergency line, and if you see people panhandling, and even some of the comments, the responses I got when I brought up how many of them were veterans, and how many of them up in my area have associates and bachelor's degrees that life has kicked them in the you-know-whats. And, it's not because they're lazy, it's not because they're drug addicts, it's not because they're alcoholics. They've hit an incredibly rough path, and there's, extenuating circumstances. And, years ago, I used to see guys panhandle for jobs. And the absolute spew that was coming out of some of the people in the neighborhood, it was Um, it was very much made to it. In fact, a couple of them reminded me about how much tax money I spent to provide services for those people. And so they're out there just because they want the money. They don't want the help. Um, and when I engaged in the 6-hour line there is to the VA, they quickly got quiet and changed subjects. Or when I talked about the shelters being at max capacity, or shelters charging $2 to get in, and you still have, you want to stay at the Salvation Army in Dallas, it's going to cost you $7 a day. You want to stay at the AA 24-hour club, it's going to cost you $10 a day. Well, that money still has to come from somewhere. And so if they don't have a job and they need panhandle, it doesn't mean that they're going to live on the street. It doesn't mean they're doing it by choice. It means because they don't have a lot of other jobs. And yes, are there some people out there that made a bunch of money panhandling? Yes, there are. There are those few that are able to.
And if you're worried about getting ripped off, don't give them money. It's that simple.
But you have no problem giving Congress money that's ripping you off.
Well, my point is, like,
you're about the homeless dude for $5 that may buy beer instead of the congressman for $500,000 who's going to buy another missile.
Right.
What the hell is wrong with humanity?
But at the same time, it's like, if you're worried about that, don't give him money, and that's fine. But don't arrest him because I gave him money. Because I don't think he's going to do that. Or maybe because I'm like, you know what? He's holding a funny sign. Let me buy the guy a beer. Here's $5.
Yes.
That's my freedom. That's my money.
I quit drinking years ago, and it's still to this day. If I go in a gas station and there's a dude down on his luck, and he doesn't need a lecture, he doesn't need advice, he doesn't want a sandwich, he wants a tall boy. Sometimes I'm like, man, this guy's gonna be sleeping under a bridge tonight. This dude is living out of a trash bag. If a tall boy is gonna make him feel better for another hour and a half, that's probably the most I can actually do for him. And there are some people that genuinely don't want the help. And so, but again, my choice. And I have been like you. I remember years ago, I was down in front of UT on campus, and a dude had a sign, and he was asking for money to buy a bag of weed. And I was like, yes, I'm giving you money, because it was completely honest. I was like, dude, looking to buy a bag. All right, I can appreciate that.
There was another one that, man, this guy, he just had a sign that just said, well, there was one guy, I think this guy was, this one I probably saw on the internet, but it was a guy holding a sign that said, I'll bet you $5 you read this sign. And and it's like, okay, that's creative. I'll give you that. Like, because look, here's the thing, we pay like, especially up there in the States on the other side of that wall, you guys are paying $10 or $15 to go to a movie and laugh your ass off for like an hour, right? So if some guy can make you chuckle on the side of the road, isn't that worth a buck maybe, or a little bit of change? Like, is it really? I mean, why not? And I mean, like here in Mexico, actually, a lot of people are. You don't see too many people begging, but you see a lot of people, like, they'll come out and they'll juggle. They, like, whenever the light turns red, they just walk out on the street, they start juggling, blah, 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 blah. And they have the timing down perfectly. They know, I'm going to get the lights 30 seconds, I'm going to go for 20 seconds, and then I'm going to walk down between the cars for the next 10 seconds, and some people are going to give me some money. And they make a little bit of money that way. And it's, they're providing a little bit of entertainment for a little bit of money. So it's not just begging, which I think is pretty interesting. But,
I think they're providing a service. It's entertainment.
Yeah. And when someone has a funny sign, that's really kind of the same thing. They're telling you a joke. I mean, it's
quite honestly, the dude who's got the funny sign that makes you laugh while you're sitting in gridlock, grinding back and forth your 40 or 50 hours.
Hate of your life.
Job. Yeah. That dude that can make you giggle on the way home. Man, that's worth a lot. Especially if you had a really crap day. And it either makes you laugh, or you look at it and give you gratitude that you have this job to grind home from.
Yeah.
But certainly, too, as the people on my Nextdoor app were demonizing panhandlers, it was, like I said, it was another gross display of humanity, in my opinion. But anyway, we got off on the side, man. Hopefully, you'll get Patrick on here soon, and he can share the story with you. Because
awesome.
It's actually told gloriously.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm going to send him a message right now, actually. Anyway, so it's been great talking with you. I wanna ask you again the final question. What is taxation?
Theft, extortion.
And actually, also, do you have any websites you want to plug? Is there a website we can go if we want to send you a donation? If we want to learn more about your jury nullification, any of that?
ShawnJonesForCongress.com is my website. Still adding content to it, and going to throw up some new videos here in this week or two. My Facebook page, Shawn Jones for Congress. Shawn Jones for 30 is my Twitter. Although we haven't really gotten around to that one yet, but we're.
So you're in this for the long haul.
I am. Well, and I'm really, I'm banking on trying to boost the Twitter to really get my video that I did challenge, where I introduced my concept of I'm running 100% voluntary time in office. I really want that challenge to get out to some other people. And I do think while I haven't used Twitter very much, I think it's one of the better ways for me to get that message out there and to hopefully get lucky, get Kanye maybe to see it, Childish Gambino, somebody who has a political opinion, and while it may not, be altogether with mine, I am hoping that message of voluntary representation, I hope and I believe that it will resonate with people through all walks and ideologies. Unless you're just hardcore statist and you love taxes, and then, well, I'm just not your guy anyway, so I'm probably not your demographic.
Some people just want to control others.
That's harsh, and certainly people don't they feel that way a lot of times. It's unfortunately, and it's small side rant of our government schools that are funded by this type of taxation system are the ones that program, indoctrinate, and advocate for this to be the best and only way to do this. And so sadly, despite the fact that you may have had 4 and 8 years of continuous education, few of us were ever taught the concept that you think maybe there's a better way to do this. We are presented with this as being the alpha and the omega, like we have somehow figured out that this is
thousands of years of evolution of governmental systems from the ancient Greeks through all of this, and we came up with the U.S. Constitution, the greatest government that has ever lived, and this is all that will ever be.
And $21 trillion in debt is somehow acceptable.
Right.
Why are we paying people that are stealing from us? It's just, if I looked at the Federal Reserve and the government like they were my personal banker, because in fact they are acting as my personal banker, they're taking my money and they're saying we're going to implement X, Y, and Z for this. If they had lost 50% of everything that I had ever given them, they would no longer be my personal banker. Why are we letting these people continue to take our money when they have proven across the board that they're not trusting?
Because if we just vote harder, they'll get it right next time.
Oh yes, that's there is vote harder for you.
Oh man.
That being said, I still need those votes if I'm going to reign chaos.
Yeah.
So,
well, hey, this is what I say, because there's, because really a lot of the people that hold our beliefs are the people who don't like voting because they know, like, you can't vote harder and fix the system. But what I say is, don't vote, give the system a middle finger. And the middle finger is voting for someone like me or you. That's a middle finger. Hold it up high.
Yeah, and even if you vote nothing else on the ballot, go in and vote for me. And it really is a vote for me is that middle finger to DC, saying, I don't know that if this what he said you can do, but we're going to find out, because I hope that by the end of this 5 months, if nothing else, people believe that I'm incredibly sincere in my desire to affect this change across the board. I do this for my son, I do this for his future, and in return, it's for everybody else's future. I would like to hopefully leave this place a lot better than what I came into. Not just my life, the world, everything. I'm hoping to make it a better place and do my role. And so again, a vote for me, a vote for the third party, a vote for the nonconformist. It is a way of, so might as well, because